Running a business was never really in the realm of possibility for me, but I always knew that I wanted to work in sports, that was my passion. My name is Morgan Light. I am the owner of Lexington Sports and Social Club here in Lexington, Kentucky. I may not have had the formal experience, formal education, or proper training per se, but I know that I love two things, and that's people and sports. And specifically for this business, that's probably the two most important aspects of what you need. I feel like you have to have a go with the flow, wing it, day-to-day mentality, while also being incredibly organized and structured and knowing what you're doing. But being able to adjust on the fly is monumental. There's always fires to be put out, some are big, some are small, but coupled with that, you have to have a very detailed and scheduled outlook, projections, and what you anticipate growth looking like. If you're not organized mentally, you're not going to be able to get stuff accomplished at the rate that you probably want. I started after high school at the University of Louisville, decided that was not a good fit for me. Then I wanted to give BCTC up here a try a couple of times, but personal and financial reasons just didn't think it was going to be a good fit for me. I was lucky enough to get a job for the Lexington Legends. It was a seasonal position, so I needed a second job, and I saw a listing for a slow pitch softball umpire, and I thought, let's give that a shot. So the owner needed a general manager. Their position had come open, and I was 20 years old at the time, and I thought, why not put my name in the ring? I was fortunate enough that he believed in me and trusted me enough to promote me to that position, and after 6 months or so, he decided he wanted to switch industries, and he offered the business. I purchased the company in March of 2022. I come from an incredibly small family. We have a very, very limited extended family. At home, I have my mom, my stepdad, my two brothers, and my uncle. When I was in high school, I met my mom's brother for the first time. He had just recently gotten out of prison. He had nowhere to stay, and him and my mom had established a really good relationship. So he decided to move from Tennessee up to our home in Louisville, and we shared a wall. It's a plywood wall, and it was very uncomfortable at first. There's a lot of stigma around the word prison. And as time went on, I was so thankful because not only was he my best friend and a mentor, but it completely reshaped how I viewed people. He taught me how to be a good person, a good friend, a good brother and son. My uncle, when he moved in with us, was around 60 years old. When I met him, he had Hodgkin's lymphoma. He had just recently gone and had a heart procedure, so he was physically beaten up, to say the least, but he was in phenomenal shape. He worked out every single day, was the strongest individual that I knew mentally and physically, and that was incredibly motivating. I feel like that really changed my trajectory in the direction of where I wanted to take my life. He passed away in 2022, right before I bought the company, actually. I got a tattoo on my upper leg and on my side. The main portion of it is actually a picture that I took at a little mountain called Charlie's Bunyan in Tennessee. I had him cremated, and I wanted to take him to a resting spot that I feel like he would have appreciated. And I got a clock to go with it to resemble the importance of time. Not time lost per se, but time. It's the most important thing that we have. But we were incredibly close from the moment he moved in. Daily phone calls, and we'd talk on the phone for hours. He was living off of disability once he got out. He spent some of his last money he gave away to a homeless person. And I said, Kurt, you're supposed to use that money to get your cancer medication. And he said, I have a roof over my head and I got to meet my family, so I have everything that I need. The environment that you're raised in is actually secondary. The nurture that you receive and the foundational values and morals that are instilled in you are actually what make you the person you're going to become. Whatever makes you happy at the end of the day, probably more important than financial security or social status. What's next for me personally? I really want to cultivate a community that I've started and built here in Lexington, but I would like to do it down in Knoxville. I've always had a passion and a love for the state of Tennessee, where my mom's side is from. Would love to, live the nice and boring American dream, start a family. There's some bucket list items that I want to knock off: visit every MLB park, hit every continent, bungee jump off a cliff, all the fun stuff. Be a kid for as long as I can.